I had in my last video somebody in the comments because I mentioned that I made a budgeting spreadsheet for the roommate situation that I had been in, and somebody heard that and was like, "We need help budgeting. I would love to see that." And so I'm going to show you guys how I built my budgeting spreadsheet and how to maintain it because my spreadsheet requires like physical maintenance. It is not automated like fully. Like I still have to go in and like update it every day, and I don't mind doing that. I like managing my budget that way because it feels very hands-on and I always know what is going on with my money. So I'm gonna go through here and show you how to build your own budget spreadsheet. And I'll have this template. I'll make it shareable. This will be linked down in the description. You can open it and make a copy of the spreadsheet so that you get all of the formulas, and then you just put your own stuff in it. I hope that makes sense. So, first things first, I'm gonna make this tab. This is where I'm gonna put just like the basic information that we need. So we're gonna call it expenses. And then I'm gonna make another tab called working budget. And that's where we'll put all the things. I like to first start by selecting this to select everything and make everything the same. So I like to align it like this so everything looks good. Got to do that on each tab. You don't have to do this. This just makes sure things are aligned and I don't have to like format it that way across the whole thing. So first things first, we need to know what it is that you have to pay for. So expenses is going to be what I label this top. The day of the month, due, expense, amount. And then I also like to include whether it is on auto pay or not, so that I know if I have to manually go in and do something. So real quick, I'm just going to merge this so that it's all here. Another thing I like to do is grab this and freeze these top two things so that the rest of this will scroll, but this will stay here so that you're not scrolling down and then this part is not viewable anymore. So I just like to freeze it and keep these two for like headings and stuff. So we're gonna make up a sample list here of expenses. So we're gonna say we have rent, electricity, food, water bills, car insurance, car payments, groceries. And yes, I am considering the groceries different from food because this is like groceries to make food and this is like food eating out, not groceries. Internet, Spotify. Okay, we're just gonna make a basic thing like that. Rent, we're gonna say is due on the 1st of the month. My rent is late on the 6th of the month, so I'm gonna write 1 through 6 so that we know it's anywhere from the 1st to the 6th of the month. Electricity, let's say it's due on like the 27th. For food, I do like a weekly food allowance for myself. So this is just gonna say 1 through 31 because it's any day of the month. The water bill we're going to say is going to be due with the rent, so we're going to say 1 through 6. Groceries, again, I'm going to do 1 to 31 because typically for me it's like in a weekly thing. It depends on when you do these things. So if you do groceries on a weekly basis, you can make it every week. This is just to get down what the expenses are. Now for this particular one, I'm going to drag this freeze bar all the way down to here now. Okay, I wanted to grab this all the way down here so that now this entire thing is frozen because we're going to populate our entire year of expenses when they're due based on this list right here. So we'll start with rent, and right here, just for my records, I'm going to put a checkbox so that I can check off when I've done it so that I know that I've done all of the expenses. So we're going to say that rent is due on the 1st. We're going to say 1/1/2025 is when that will be due, and then the next month is 2/1/2025. So once you have this established, you can highlight both of those and drag it down March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, all the way to the 12th, so you can see it does that. And we'll write here rent 1,000 auto, and then we'll take this, populate it. Oh, there. We did that. Scroll up. Electricity is due on the 27th, so let's say 1/27/2025. And again, we're going to do that 2/27/2025. It needs to be the same date, just 1 month apart. That way it knows that you're trying to do exactly 1 month apart. You can do the same with weeks and with days. It works exactly the same. So again, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And this will be electricity, 100. So you're going to repeat this step for every single one of your expenses until you've got a full list. For the food, I'm going to break this down into weekly. So since this is a 1 through 31, I like to do the end of the week. So 1/7/2025 to 7/2025. And then we'll repeat that again, like with 14 and then 21. And since the 400 is estimated for the month, we're going to make it $100 because it's for the week. So you know how much food you have for the week. And you'll see how this comes into play when we do the other part. So I'm just going to speed run this real quick. Okay. Once you have populated this whole list here, you'll see that everything is just in one big chunk. You also want to include your paycheck in this. So let's say you get paid bi-weekly. So we're going to say your first paycheck of the year is going to be on the 14th. And then your next paycheck would be 2 weeks after that on the 28th. So that's all of your paychecks. And let's say you get paid $1,500, and that's automatically deposited into your account. Now that you have all that, we're going to take this, we're going to Command Shift, Control Shift, and we're going to hit down, and it's going to grab all of that. You're going to Control or Command C to copy, and now we're going to come over to the working budget, and we are going to make schedule of expenses. We're going to skip one line so that we can do the headings there, and we're just going to paste this. Okay, and now this is date, expense, amount, auto, manual. Freeze this row here. Before we do everything, I also like to make a category called fixed or flex, meaning it is a fixed number that always has to come out at the same time and is the same amount and is important. You cannot have any wiggle room. And flexible things would be like your groceries, because those aren't going to be the same amount every time. Things you do for fun, things that the due date of and amount of can be moved. This will be important for other formulas that I'm going to show you. So rent is a fixed expense. So I'm going to put that. Electricity would be flexible because it's not going to be the same each month. So it's not going to be, without a doubt, $100. Food also is going to be a flex amount. And I'm not going to label this fixed or flex because we don't want this to be counted as an expense. It is an income, and I don't want it to mess with the other formulas. So now that we have that, we're going to go back up to the top here and do the same thing where we select all of this, and we're going to sort it so that it is sorted by this column, column A, and it'll sort it by the date. So you'll have when everything is gonna be due. So you can see here now that you've got your paycheck here and then all the expenses that are before it. And another thing that I like to have on here is, well, it's important if you're managing your budget because you need to know. So we'll say money in accounts. So we'll have checking, savings, alt checking, in case you have another account, and we'll say cash. Okay? So this is how much money you're going to have on hand, and these will be numbers that you do have to update. So let's say right now you've got $1,300 in your checking, you've got $10,000 in your savings, you've got another $400 in a checking account, and you've got $300 in cash. I like to make totals for things so we know how much you have. So here you would put equals, and it's already suggesting it for you, so I'm just going to hit enter. And we'll format these numbers so that they are actually like dollars and stuff at the end, but right now we're getting everything just kind of set up. And this is going to be a little tedious part as well. I'm going to do some conditional formatting here so that whatever expense is here, whatever it is, it turns into the correct color based on what it needs to be. So I'm going to grab here, and I'm going to select everything. So if there's more, it all also gets included in it. Format, conditional formatting. Okay. And so this little menu will pop up, and I'm going to make a bunch of rules here. So we're going to say if text is exactly, so that it'll be what the expenses are. We're going to say if it is paycheck. I like to make this bright green. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is when I'm getting paid. And then I'm going to, instead of hitting done or cancel, I'm going to select add another rule so that I can just keep that text is exactly rule in the same area. And if it says fixed, it's going to be red because that means you can't change it. And then it'll just make it visually easier. You can make whatever rules work for you the best. This is how I do it. If it says flex, we're going to make it green. That way we know it can be flexed. So at a glance, if you're like, whoa, I've got all of these expenses coming up right before my paycheck, you can real quickly see which ones you have to pay and which ones are flexible. So now just with that, I want to further organize these. You see how this is organized where it says fixed and then flexed and they're all separate with the fixed at the top? That's because that's the way that these dates line up for that. But I like to make it look like that just so we're clear on what actually is fixed and flexed. And so to do this, you're going to select this area right before the paycheck. Make sure you're selecting all of those columns, but not this top where it says that you just want the expenses that are in that given area. And you're going to go data, sort, advanced sorting options. And we're going to say I want it to sort by column E because that's where the fixed and flex is. And we're going to say A to Z and hit OK. And you see it moves those so that all of the flex things are at the bottom and all of the fixed things are at the top. So you're like, okay, so I have to pay $1,178, but I can flex on the rest of these as far as what I need. So I'm going to go ahead and real quickly do that to all of the sections. And if you know a better way to do this, please let me know. This is just the things that I have learned and how I do things. I'm always looking for new ways, better ways to do things. Collaborate, y'all. The most tedious thing about this is setting it up, and then really keeping it up to date doesn't require that much. Like I spend a little bit of time on it probably every day, but it's like maybe 5 minutes. So it's not that involved. It's the setup of it that is involved. And listen, if you get on this and you're like, wow, this is really great, but I don't have the energy or the attention span to be able to upkeep this, I am happy to manage your budget for you. I can build you a little calculator and update based on numbers however we decide to exchange that information, and we can figure out how much you can afford to pay me and still be able to do everything that you need to do comfortably. So if that's something that you would like, you want to have somebody manage your budget for you, I'm happy to do that. I enjoy doing this type of work. It brings me a lot of satisfaction. So if that's something that you want, hit me up and we can figure out how to make that happen. All right, so now that you can see before our paycheck on January 14th, we have to be able to cover $1,728 in expenses. Now, I like to have, we'll do it one above. So it's like you see the paycheck, or you see this total, and the next is where you get paid. And so we're going to add up, we're going to have it auto add everything that is in this category. So we're going to say equals sum. Well, I know it's C10. Okay, so that's going to add up. We're going to go do the same thing for each of these sections so that we know the total amount of money that we need to have in order to cover all of our expenses for each pay period. I'm going to go ahead and add another column to the right here just so there's more space in between here. So this is going to be what the total is each pay period, and then this is going to be total left over. So we're gonna calculate how much is left over equals whatever's in our checking, because I'm assuming that that is going to be what we're working from. We're going to take that minus this. Okay, so you can see we're over $428. So maybe we need to transfer some money from our savings. Maybe we can involve our alternate checking or some cash, whatever needs to happen. And then to make everything else accurate, so this is kind of going to give you a glimpse of like how your expenses are moving forward. So again, this is a tedious part. We're going to say this is going to equal, now instead of, since this is a future pay period that hasn't happened, we're going to say that this equals this money that's left over, which is what we would do in lieu of clicking on the checking. And then we're going to add whatever our paycheck is, and then we're going to subtract this number. Okay, and so we'll have $22 left over after our paycheck. So let's say now we have $1,800 in here in our checking. You can see we have $72 left over, and then after our expenses we would have $522 left over. So we're gonna repeat that for all of these so that we can see what our things are moving forward. So I'll real quickly do that. For this column here, do that and then deselect these things so it's just this. I'm going to do another alternate conditional formatting so you can quickly see. And so we're going to say if this is greater than 0, it's in the green. And then if it is less than 0, it's going to be in the red. Okay? So you can see everything's in the green right now because we have enough money. Let's go back to that figure we had before, and you can see that turns red, but it seems like we're okay going forward. And now if you set this up and you see that everything looks negative going this way, like my budget kind of looks like that, but it really matters week to week, and I'm able to like save different amounts of money and move things around so that I can afford everything so it's not negative. So if everything looks like it's negative, don't worry. It'll you really just want to kind of pay attention to these first 2 or 3 to get a handle on what's going on. Other things that you can do that I really like to do is if you want to be like saving for things, I'm going to make sure you, when you're doing this, you highlight all the way over to this column as well. Otherwise, these will all get displaced. And I'm going to insert cells, not rows, because rows will do the whole thing. Cells and shift down so that we've got some blanks here. And so that this always stays within our calculations, we're going to say equals today with just open parentheses so that this will always populate the current date so that it always stays within this. And so I like to do this, like if there's extra money, I'm going to put $1,800 back in here. So like you see there's $72 extra here. I would, let's say I want to save for a game. bike trip, surgery recovery. This we're not going to have an auto or a manual just because it's not an actual expense. It's just something that we are saving money for. Now you could just transfer money over into your savings depending on, what you have, but I like to do this with my extra money. And these will all be flex, because you can also, if you don't have enough money, you can be like, okay, well, I'll take some money from the things that I was saving for, and then it'll do that. With that $72, we'll put $10 in all of these categories. Now, you see how this number didn't change? That's because this, when we inserted it, it moved down. So what you want to do is actually lock this. So we want it to be, you're going to put a $sign here. We want it to start adding from the third row here, which is where our stuff starts, and it's gonna end there. So if you go in here, for example, and you add another thing, you're like, okay, well, there's something else that I want to add. I would recommend going beneath the second one and highlighting that row. That way 3 never gets messed with. And so I'll drag this formula down so it always stays the same. And let's say we want to save for a haircut. Okay, so we're going to add another $10 to that. And so you can see now we have $22 left over, but really money hasn't left our account. It's just these are things that we are wanting to set money aside to do. So at each juncture, we're like, oh, I've got $607. I can go ahead and put that into any of these things, and all of that money will already be automatically calculated and reserved. Something that I have run into once you get down here, like to this first thing and all of your expenses are done, and you're setting up for the next one, you do have to restructure these formulas, because this formula is going to stay the same where it's wanting to add this, but since all of these are going to be moved and disappeared, like here, let's just, all of these have happened. Okay, so we're going to delete cells and shift up. Whoops, now all of this is broken. So what we have to do here is go to this. Well, we also need to change this because again, you see it starts at C8, and so you'll want to take it back up to C3 so that it's adding all of that. And then you want to redo that formula where you say equals your checking account minus this number, and then everything else will reset. So that is a little bit of a tedious thing that you have to do. But again, you can just pay me to stay on top of that for you. Additionally, you can also make macros, which will automatically do things for you. So for example, we're going to record a macro to delete and shift up, so we don't have to like go through all the clicking of it every time. And how you do that is extensions, macros, record a macro. An absolute reference will always do it from this exact cell that you first clicked in. So you want to do relative. That way it'll go for what you're trying to do. And it doesn't matter how long you take to do this. It just records your like clicks and keystrokes and things like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click and drag all the way over, because this is where I want it to do every single time. You're going to right click, delete cells, and shift up. Okay? And we're going to say delete expense. And you can add a number here if you wanted to real quickly do the command option shift and the number to run that, but you can also come up to your extensions, macros, and then hit delete expense. So I'm gonna undo that delete, and we're gonna click on Spotify here. All we have to do is click in this cell, go up to extensions, macros, delete expense, and it will run that. A script attached to this document needs your permission. Oh, the first time it'll ask you to do this, and so you have to hit allow, and then it'll run the script, and then you shouldn't have to do that again. And so I'm just going to undo that so it keeps that, so that you don't have to worry about, oh, I accidentally just like highlighted to here, deleted it, and it wonked everything, and I have to go set everything up. No. Now, anytime you click in any of these cells, if you choose that extension, it will repeat the action that I did and delete it. If you want to do it for more chunks, like if you have like 4 things in a row that you want to get rid of, then just record another macro that's doing it with however many rows you want and label it accordingly so that you can choose it, just to make things easier for you. I like to also have a like calculator for myself so that I don't have to come on here and like know how much I am working with. So what you would do is, like, if you've spent money, you want to come up here and you want to update how much money is in your checking. Like, okay, I spent some money and now I only have $1,700 in my checking. That'll automatically update. Now, if some of that spending was because you paid something, then you would come and delete that expense so that it updates this calculation and you're not like over $78. You're like, oh, I know I did that. So you would come over here, you would run that macro, delete that expense, and then you'd still see you're over $13. Oh, perfect, which would take Spotify out. So yeah, let's do that again. We'll delete that expense. Boom. Now you've broken even. So this would just be your basic management of it. On my budget, I have made this little calculator here. So in here, I have $100 is what I have set for myself per week. So I made a formula equals 100 minus, and then it adds anything that I put into this and subtracts it from that number. So if I spent $20, this part is how much I can spend per day based on what I have going on here, which is, this is the next time I get paid. This counts the number of days between today and the next paycheck and divides the 100 by that so that I know how much money I have to spend each day on food to remain within this budget. So right now I could spend $50 a day and still be within this budget. And connected to this number here on my list of expenses, I have the food, and it says 100 because I turned it into a formula. So I hit equals, click over to the other thing that you want it, and you put here, so it will always say whatever is in that box. And then for my checking, I have it with what my checking and savings is minus, and then I did the sum and took myself over, and so it also will subtract any number that I put in here so that I don't also, when I spend money, have to then come change this number. It'll just automatically be like, oh, okay, I spent, so here, that says 727. So if I go in here and I say, okay, I spent $14 on lunch, now I have 86, you go back to the schedule of expenses, now it says that my account has $713 in it. So it automatically updates for me what I've spent, and this number automatically updates how much I have left so that this number is also accurate. So that's how I like to do things for my food. If you want to see how to build that, I am happy to as well. But otherwise, this is how I manage my own expenses. If you have any questions about this at all, if you want, like on my budget, I have some savings goals here. So every time I enter an amount here, it also changes here and tells me how much I have left before I hit this goal. So if you also want something like that, I am happy to make another video doing that. If you want me to manage your budget and build calculators for you, I can make a calculator for whatever you want. And actually, real quick, let me show you. This is the budget that I was running for the roommate situation that I was in. You see, I have a lot of very colorful stuff because I was on this like so much, and I have all these little things grouped so that I can like hide certain things, and this was very complex and I would manage it all the time. So like I had all these I had like at a glance, so she could look here and see this, what this brings in, you know, the amount of money. So like for each category, what she could spend and everything. So she didn't have to look at the budget. All she had to do was get on here and be like, oh, I can spend this much money. And then she would go into the category and just write how much she spent so that I could then go and update all of the numbers and that she could real quickly just like know what to spend. So I can customize any type of calculator that you might want. I can definitely do that. So if you would like to hire me to manage your budget, awesome. Reach out to me. We can figure out how to work that out. If you just want to tweak this to work your budget and everything, that's cool. And obviously this isn't as like my budget. I have, you know, a little bit more formatting to things and These are my recurring expenses, the formula paid. This is like I do my grocery list, my to-do list, my packing list, so I can really easily like check all that stuff on it. It's all just like in one place. I also, if you're interested, I built this so that we could track how much the groceries cost, how much we were spending on groceries, and like where they were in the store, so that I could arrange this grocery list and like make it the most efficient. So going through, it would be like in order, and you would pick up all the things and you would know exactly how much everything cost, and we could track, you know, the fluctuations in prices and stuff. I can do a lot of things, but this is the budget template. And so yeah, thank you for viewing this, and let me know if you have any questions, if you want to see any other types of spreadsheets, if you want to hire me, let me know.